I'm delighted to welcome back the very lovely Jen Parker, who is the founder, creator, all-round good egg of Fuzzy Flamingo Publishing Company. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Wonderful to see you. Looking so well as well, considering I know what you go through day to day with your own health challenges, which we'll touch on briefly. But the aim of this discussion is to talk about two books that are coming out shortly. And you are the publisher for both of them, and they're called My 2020. So tell us about the books.
Yes, they're projects by Jessica Prime. There's an adult version and there's a children's version with her child author project. So I do the book production for her book projects, which is always lovely. But this time I've actually written a chapter for the adult version, and my eldest, who is 4, has written a chapter for the child version. So we're both going to be published authors again.
Wow, fabulous. And you've got loads and loads of #1 bestsellers under your belt, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So I've worked on 44 #1 best-selling books on Amazon now, which is, I get a thrill every time. Every time one of my authors releases a book and we go for that push, I get the adrenaline spike. I don't think it's ever going to get old.
Fabulous. And that's not just Amazon. I mean, you've got many more books, haven't you, that you've helped to publish?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with hundreds of authors. They all have different aims out of the process. So not everyone wants to go for that #1 spot on Amazon. Not everyone wants to release on Amazon. I've worked with authors who have very, very niche books who they know exactly who they're selling to. So they have a short print run. Different authors find different ways of publishing works best for them. So it depends on the book and them as an author as well.
Tell us a bit about your background, Jen, how you came into publishing in the first place, because it wasn't your first thing that you did, is it?
No, it was actually kind of by accident, but a very happy accident. So I've now been in the publishing industry for over 11 years. But all through my childhood, all through my life, I only ever wanted to go into the police. It's what everything to do with my education was geared towards, was to give me the best shot at getting in when I came to apply. After university, I went for a gap year traveling around the world, and then my intention was to get home and apply for the police. However, I got diagnosed with inflammatory arthritis whilst I was traveling. I'd had lots of swollen joints, was having lots of issues, and just went to the GP in Australia, which just was the catalyst for this life-changing diagnosis, and changed a lot of our travel plans, and also changed my life. And then when we got home, they were doing a recruitment drive in my area for the police, and I thought, brilliant, this is just great timing. But when I hit apply, the very first question was, do you have any of these conditions? And my condition was one that was listed, so I had to tick yes. And then the next page said, I'm sorry, you can't apply for this position. So my career came to a crashing halt before it had even started. So I just applied for lots and lots of different jobs, and it was my mum who came to me with an advert for a publishing house and said, Jen, I think you'd be perfect for this. And it just, something clicked, and I thought, oh, why did I not think of that to begin with? Because it's perfect for me. And it's just been a happy ever after ever since. It's been brilliant.
Fabulous. So when you say you publish books, what actually do you physically do?
So since I started my own business, which was September 2017, I do design, editing, and offer publishing services. And what that means is I take your Word document, I do the editing to make sure there are as few errors as humanly possible. I design the front cover, I design the text, and then I can help you to publish it on Amazon KDP or through a different method depending on what you want after the process.
Wonderful. And you helped me with their #1, didn't you? Our Perfect Health True Life Stories Volume 1. That's also #1, and other of Jess's publications that we've jointly worked on. So tell us about the My 2020. So there are 2 versions. So explain why there are 2 versions, and a little bit about each, if you would, please.
Of course. So the Child Author Project has been going for a while now. They've already published 3 books in the Child Author Project series. So the first one was happiness, then there was kindness, and then there was family, which they have over 100 children writing poetry, writing stories, or just writing non-fiction about that particular subject of the book. So when the pandemic hit, it made sense to just let them have free rein over what they wanted to write about from 2020, what they've been going through. Children's mental health has been hit hard, but reading the stories, the resilience is absolutely incredible. These children are so inspiring. So I'm thrilled to be part of that project. And my daughter was in the last book, Family, and so she wanted to join in this book as well. And then Jessica thought, well, the adults have obviously been going through this too. So we decided to launch the adult version as well. So it's adults writing about what they went through the pandemic. So lots of different authors talking about the different things they went through, because although we've all been through the same situation, we've all been through such different things as well. And it's coming out of that other side of it and looking at the lessons that we've learned throughout that crazy year.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to tell you we're not out of it. We've got a long way to go yet, and there will be, I'm sure there will be a May 2021, because we've still got lots of stuff to go through. And here we are in the middle of 2021 and no sign of lifting, despite what the media say. It's not going to happen. I can assure you it's definitely not going to happen, which is sad but true. But so we all need to buckle up. You said the children are inspiring. So what kind of inspiring have you noticed from their stories?
There's just so much positivity coming through. Even though some of the children have been through absolutely horrendous things, they're talking about loss, not just of people dying, there are people getting ill in their lives, but there are also there's so much loss to do with their whole situation. So not being able to go to school, not being able to see their friends and family. There's a lot of talk about loss, but there are also so many positives that they're taking from it. So a lot of the children talk about really enjoying the extra time they've had with their family and how they've got lots of things that they're looking forward to doing. And the positivity is just, that's what I find really inspiring, is that they can take so much positive from such a negative situation.
And that's so brilliant. And that's the whole point of Jessica's work, isn't it? To help everybody, but particularly children, to express themselves in ways that are congruent with themselves. And it shines through that, the whole series of the Child Author Project. What kind of things are coming through from the parents?
So I haven't read the stories in full from the other authors. I've done the typesetting, so I've skimmed through a lot of the authors, but they've been through a lot. There's been obviously loss with like the children's books, but also there's been heartbreak, there's been illness, there's been a lot of stuff that they've been going through, and it's just talking about how they're dealing with that and how they're processing. And writing is such a cathartic process to go through anyway, so it's already helping the authors having written about it, but it's just trying to show that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even though we're not out of it yet. There are things that we can take from it. So each author is talking about lessons that we've learned so far.
I'm a great believer that nothing is wasted. Everything that we go through is for a reason and for the right timing. And there's a greater power than us that's kind of, sort of a divining thing that kind of connects like-minded people, that kind of organizes events. Everything happens for a reason, and when it happens, it's the right time, isn't it? Like your own story with the police. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here now with all these #1 bestsellers under your belt.
No, absolutely, it would be a very different story.
Yeah, exactly. So how have you managed, Jen? Because you've still got this arthritis condition that you live with daily. You've got 2 young children. You're running a business. You've got a husband, and you manage a house. I mean, how the hell do you manage?
I questioned that myself quite a few times, to be honest. My 2020 was, so I start off my chapter saying how actually 2019 was the worst year of my life, because that was the year that my mum died. She died of cancer in March 2019. So I was then dealing with that, and my children were very young. My youngest had only just been born. She was only 3 months old when my mum died. My eldest was 2, and so she was processing through a very difficult thing to understand for adults. So at 2, it was even harder. So I was trying to help her through the process as well. I had grief counselling in 2019, and did lots of things to try and help myself in my recovery, because grief is a process and you do have to go through the motions, but I wanted to give myself the tools to be able to do that. And so I actually started 2020 in a very positive place, and I was really excited. I'd relaunched my business after my maternity and compassionate leave, and I was very excited for the future. And in March I won an award, and everything was really happy, and then all of a sudden everything came to a halt. It was very strange for me. I had both my girls were off nursery because nursery closed, and so I was trying to manage my business whilst also looking after them. They're below school age, so it was just a case of keeping them entertained and happy, as well as learning. So it was tough, and because we didn't know how long it was going to learn, I kind of just powered through thinking, oh, it hopefully won't be too long, I'll just keep going. So I was working evenings and weekends and nap times, and then the rest of the time spending it with my girls. So we didn't really time as a family of 4, because as soon as my husband came home from work, I was up in my office, and at the weekends he was looking after the kids while I was working. So we didn't really see much of each other at all. And it started to take its toll. It took its toll on my health. My physical health and my mental health are very, very much linked. And I find when I get stressed, my arthritis flares like crazy. So it's really important for me to manage those stress levels. I didn't manage it very well in 2020. So yeah, I had an almighty flare. My hair had started falling out and all of these other horrible things. So when we then moved house at the end of the first lockdown,
have enough to deal with all of that, and some people never move house ever because it's too stressful, and you took that on as well. Good grief.
I know. Well, it wasn't intentional to have it happen in a lockdown, because we only had one survey to go just as everything came to a halt. So we were supposed to be moving, and then everything stopped. So then when the restrictions started to lift, our solicitor phoned us and said, right, can you move in 10 days? Like, no, we haven't packed anything, because we didn't know when anything was going to happen. So luckily they introduced the bubble system, and my mother-in-law lives on her own in Norwich, so she came over and basically lived with us for a whole week to look after the kids, so that my husband and I could pack up the whole house in a week, and off we went. It was lovely. The new house is brilliant. I now have my own office, whereas I was working in my office within a bedroom and in the last house. That's been a real positive, but obviously then lockdown 2 happened, but thankfully the nursery stayed open for the preceding lockdowns, so I was actually able to build my business, and it's worked out okay for me in the end. So I've been able to continue working, been able to manage my stress much better because the girls are at nursery, but I've also learned that if we go into another full lockdown where nursery shuts, I can't carry on like I did the first time round, because with not knowing how long it's going to last, it just takes, I need to prioritize my health more than I have done. So that's the main thing that I've taken from it, is that if I don't look after my own health, nobody else can look after it for me. So it's got to be my responsibility.
So do you have a plan ready then on how you're going to do that?
But it's just all about communication. So I communicate consistently with my authors, making sure that they're happy and that everything's going to plan. So it's basically, if there are rumblings that things might change, it's just keeping that communication up. I would just have to finish the work I was doing for the authors I had on board, and then just have to take a break and take the financial hit until things started going again. But I think my health needs to be more of a priority than the finances. And that's what I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really pleased to hear you say that. And it's unfortunate that it's not until we get to that stage that people wake up and smell the roses. It's not until people get to rock bottom that they start looking for alternatives, because you know, popping pills and you know, is not the answer, as we've learnt. And for a lot of people, they've not been able to see doctors, and you know, unless you're going for the pinprick, shall we say. I don't want to say the word because it just upsets me. But their health is just so important, and you're an absolute tower of inspiration for other mums. And when, you know, all the things you do with your health, your business, your family life, your you know, looking after the children and everything. I take my hat off to you, Jen. Well done.
Thank you. It's all about balance, I think. It's because I do fully believe in the old adage that you can't pour from an empty cup, but sometimes you just can't see it happening. So with the first lockdown, I didn't see how stressed I was, because I just kept thinking, they just kept adding weeks on. So I just kept thinking, oh, it's just another couple of weeks. And then it was another couple of weeks. And so it wasn't until we were several months down the line that I thought, this was a lot longer than I expected. So it's just then having those contingencies in place for should it happen again. I mean, it wasn't anything we could have planned for. So I have no regrets over how I handled it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Just making changes for should it happen again.
Yeah, the word, you used a word in there, and the language we use to everybody, but particularly ourselves, is important. You use the word just. It's just another this, it's just another that, and that's how the stress piles upon us without even realizing. It's just another author, it's just another book, it's just another, you know, hour of my time or whatever, and all these justs add up to a mighty pile. And that's when, you know, the straw breaks the camel's back, or whatever the saying is. So it's I think the message is to be careful out there, to get balance, as you say, and put your health first. Absolutely.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing this, and I'm really looking forward to reading the books when they come out. When is the launch date?
I don't actually know, to be honest. It's not going to be too far off, because we're quite far ahead in the production. So I imagine end of this month, maybe beginning of July.
Well, we're halfway through. Yeah, okay. So sometime in the next few weeks.
Yes, it should be.
To see the books. I'm sure Jessica will be doing her usual wonderful lead up and everything, and everybody will be sharing, as I will, of course. So thank you, Jen. Wonderful, and you're a true inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And for everything that you do.
Thank you.